About My Dreams by Hilda Conkling. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. The babies that have no mothers anymore, dear God, let me hold up my silver cup for them to drink and tell them the sweetness of my dreams. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Afternoon on a Hill by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. Afternoon on a Hill. I will be the gladdest thing under the sun. I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. I will look at cliffs and clouds with quiet eyes, watch the wind bow down the grass and the grass rise. And when lights begin to show up from the town, I will mark which must be mine and then start down. End of recording. This recording is in the public domain.
Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. Read for LibriVox.org by Theo Douglas. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged serfs of heaven coveted, her and me. And this was the reason that, long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud by night, chilling my Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, when envying her and me, yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I see the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the side of the sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Ballad of the Boston Tea Party by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Read for LibriVox.org by Terrance Callan. No, never such a draught was poured since Hebe served with nectar the bright Olympians and their lord, her overkind protector, since Father Noah squeezed the grape and took to such behaving as would have shamed our grandsire ape before the days of shaving. No, ne'er was mingled such a draught in palace, hall, or arbor, as freemen brewed and tyrants quaffed that night in Boston harbor. It kept King George so long awake, his brain at last got addled, It made the nerves of Britain shake, with 70 millions saddled. Before that bitter cup was drained, amid the roar of cannon, the western war clouds crimson stained the Thames, the Clyde, the Shannon. Full many a 6-foot grenadier the flattened grass had measured, and many a mother, many a year, her tearful memories treasured. Fast spread the tempest's darkening pall, the mighty realms were troubled, the storm broke loose, but first of all, the Boston teapot bubbled. An evening party, only that, no formal invitation, no gold-laced coat, no stiff cravat, no feast in contemplation, no silk-robed dames, no fiddling band, no flowers, no songs, no dancing. A tribe of red men, axe in hand, behold the guests advancing. How fast the stragglers join the throng, from stall and workshop gathered. The lively barber skips along and leaves a chin half lathered. The smith has flung his hammer down, the horseshoe still is glowing. The truant tapster at the crown has left a beer cask flowing. The cooper's boys have dropped the adze and trot behind their master. Up run the tarry shipyard lads, the crowd is hurrying faster. Out from the mill ponds purlieus gush the streams of white-faced millers, and down their slippery alleys rush the lusty young Fort Hillers. The rope-walk lends its prentice crew, the Tories seize the omen. Aye, boys, you'll soon have work to do for England's rebel foemen. King Hancock, Adams, and their gang that fire the mob with treason. When these we shoot and those we hang, the town will come to reason. On to where the tea-ships ride, and now their ranks are forming. A rush, and up the Dartmouth side the Mohawk band is swarming. See the fierce natives, what a glimpse of paint and fur and feather, as all at once the full-grown imps light on the deck together. A scarf the pigtails secret keeps, a blanket hides the breeches, and out the cursed cargo leaps, and overboard it pitches. O woman at the evening board, so gracious, sweet, and purring, so happy while the tea is poured, so blessed while spoons are stirring, what martyr can compare with thee, the mother, wife, or daughter, that night instead of best bohea, condemned to milk and water? All little dreams the quiet dame who plies with rock and spindle the patient flax, how great a flame yon little spark shall kindle. The lurid morning shall reveal a fire no king can smother, where British flint and Boston steel have clashed against each other. Old charters shrivel in its track, his worship's bench has crumbled. It climbs and clasps the Union Jack, its blazoned pomp is humbled. The flags go down on land and sea like corn before the reapers. So burned the fire that brewed the tea that Boston served her keepers. The waves that wrought a century's wreck have rolled o'er Whig and Tory. The Mohawks on the Dartmouth's deck still live in song and story. The waters in the rebel bay have kept the tea-leaf savor. Our old North Enders in their spray still taste a hyson flavor. And freedom's teacup still o'erflows with ever-fresh libations, to cheat of slumber all her foes, and cheer the wakening nations. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Chanticleer by Catherine Tynan. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Of all the birds from east to west that tuneful are and dear, I love that farmyard bird the best. They call him Chanticleer. Gold plume and copper plume, comb of scarlet gay, 'Tis he that scatters night and gloom, and whistles back the day. He is the sun's brave herald, that, ringing his blithe horn, calls round a world dew-pearled the heavenly airs of morn. O clear gold, shrill and bold, he calls through creeping mist the mountains from the night and cold to rose and amethyst. He sets the birds to singing, and calls the flowers to rise. The morning cometh, bringing sweet sleep to heavy eyes. Gold plume and silver plume, comb of coral gay, 'tis he packs off the night and gloom, and summons home the day. Black fear he sends it flying, black care he drives afar, and creeping shadows sighing before the morning star. The birds of all the forest have dear and pleasant cheer, but yet I hold the rarest, the farmyard chanticleer. Red cock or black cock, gold cock or white, the flower of all the feathered flock, he whistles back the light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Chickadee by Hilda Conkling. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. The chickadee in the apple tree talks all the time very gently. He makes me sleepy. I rock away to the sea lights. Far off I hear him talking, the way smooth bright pebbles drop into water. Chickadee-dee-dee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Conquest and Defeat by Herbert Edward Palmer. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. The conqueror is he who wins, for this the warring hosts of pain. The saint is he who mastered sins, not he who never knew their stain. Truth is but error put to flight, day springs from out the loins of night. The conqueror shall rule the night, till vanquished legions shake his throne. The saint shall keep his armour bright, till he is deaf to sinners' moan. Truth shall go limping home in rags, for at her heels foul error drags. But day walks fearless on all sides, for in her loins the black night hides. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Daphne by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. Daphne, why do you follow me? Any moment I can be nothing but a laurel tree. Any moment of the chase I could leave you in my place, a pink bough for your embrace. Yet, if over hill and hollow, still it is your will to follow, I am off to hill Apollo. End of recording. This recording is in the public domain.
Flower of Love by Oscar Wilde. Read for LibriVox.org by Cavaet. Sweet, I blame you not, for mine the fault was. Had I not been made of common clay, I had climbed the highest heights unclimbed, yet seen the fuller air, the larger day. From the wildness of my wasted passion I had struck a better, clearer song, lit some lighter, freer freedom battled with some hydra-headed wrong. Had my lips been smitten into music by the kisses that but made them bleed, you had walked with Bice and the angels on that verdant and enamelled mead. I had trod the road which Dante treading saw the suns of seven circles shine. I, perchance, had seen the heavens opening as they opened to the Florentine. And the mighty nations would have crowned me who am crownless now and without name, and some orient dawn had found me kneeling on the threshold of the house of fame. I had sat within that marble circle where the oldest bard is as the young, and the pipe is ever dropping honey, and the lyre's strings are ever strung. Keats had lifted up his hymeneal curls from out the poppy-seeded wine, with ambrosial mouth had kissed my forehead, clasped the hand of noble love in mine. And at springtide, when the apple blossoms brush the burnished bosom of the dove, two young lovers lying in an orchard would have read the story of our love, would have read the legend of my passion, known the bitter secret of my heart, kissed as we have kissed, but never parted as we two are fated now to part. For the crimson flower of our life is eaten by the cankerworm of truth, and no hand can gather up the fallen, withered petals of the rose of youth. Yet I am not sorry that I loved you. What else had I a boy to do? For the hungry teeth of time devour, and the silent-footed years pursue. Rudderless we drift athwart a tempest, and, when once the storm of youth is past, without lyre, without lute or chorus, death, the silent pilot, comes at last. And within the grave there is no pleasure, for the blind worm battens on the root, and desire shudders into ashes, and the tree of passion bears no fruit. Ah, what else had I to do but love you? God's own mother was less dear to me, and less dear the Cytherea rising like an argent lily from the sea. I have made my choice, have lived my poems, and, though youth is gone in wasted days, I have found the lover's crown of myrtle better than the poet's crown of bays. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Grave by Lila Poole Price. From Weird Tales, June 1926. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. Oh, bury me under the soft blue waves, mid the swirl of the billows free. Let me find sweet rest 'neath their foam-tipped crest, in the depths of the murmuring sea. No bell shall be tolled with its mournful sound, no funeral pall shall be spread, but a solemn hush and a soft, sad rush as the waters close over my head. A tangle of seaweed shall be my shroud, and a mound of coral my bier. The voice of the sea shall my requiem be, and my sleep will be tranquil here. No roses nor lilies may deck my grave, nor marble shall mark my rest, but the wonderful flowers of the ocean's bowers shall lovingly twine over my breast. Then bury me under the sad sea waves, where the winds moan soft and low. Let the tears that are shed for the deep-covered dead with the shimmering wavelets flow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Grave of Shelley by Oscar Wilde. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Like burnt-out torches by a sick man's bed, gaunt cypress trees stand round the sun-bleached stone. Here doth the little night owl make her throne, and the slight lizard show his jeweled head. And where the chaliced poppies flame to red, in the still chamber of yon pyramid, surely some old world sphinx lurks darkly hid, grim warder of this pleasance of the dead. Ah, sweet indeed to rest within the womb of earth, great mother of eternal sleep, but sweeter far for thee a restless tomb in the blue cavern of an echoing deep, or where the tall ships founder in the gloom against the rocks of some wave-shattered steep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hap by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Lyra Scout. If but some vengeful god would call to me from up the sky and laugh, "Thou suffering thing, know that thy sorrow is my ecstasy, that thy love's loss is my hate's profiting," then would I bear, and clench myself and die, steeled by the sense of ire unmerited, half eased in that a power fuller than I had willed and meted me the tears I shed. But not so. How arrives it joy lies slain, and why unblooms the best hope ever sown? Crass casualty obstructs the sun and rain, and dicing time for gladness casts a moan. These purblind doomsters had as readily strown blisses about my pilgrimage as pain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Happy Man by Thomas Flatman. Read for LibriVox.org by Public Domain Scholar. The Happy Man. Peaceful is he, and most secure, whose heart and actions all are pure. How smooth and pleasant is his way, whilst life's menander glides away. If a fierce thunderbolt do fly, this man can unconcerned lie. No, 'tis not levelled at his head, so neither noise nor flash can dread. Though a swift whirlwind tear in sunder heaven above him, or earth under, though the rocks on heaps do tumble, or the world to ashes crumble, though the stupendous mountains from on high drop down and in their humble valleys lie, should the unruly ocean roar and dash its foam against the shore, he finds no tempest in his mind, fears no billow, feels no wind. All is serene, all quiet there. There's not one blast of troubled air. Old stars may fall, or new ones blaze, yet none of these his soul amaze. Such as the man can smile at irksome death, and with an easy sigh give up his breath. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hate by Herbert Edward Palmer. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. I hated a fellow man long ago, for he compassed my spirit's overthrow, and the years that followed were bitter with woe. And if someone had sent that man to his rest, I think that my heart would have danced in my breast, and I dreamed that I sought him and slew him with zest. But a week gone by, the word went round that my enemy's body was under the ground, and my heart was heavy and gave no sound. Only the wind and the skies made call, God have pity upon you all. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Her Violin by Madison Kawine. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Her violin, again begin the dream notes of her violin, and tall and fair, with gold-brown hair, I seem to see her standing there, soft-eyed and sweetly slender. The broom again, with strain on strain, vibrates to love's melodious pain, as sloping slow is poised her bow, while round her form the golden glow of sunset spills its splendor. Her violin, now deep, now thin, again I hear her violin, and dream by dream again I seem to see the lovelight's tender gleam beneath her eyes' long lashes, while to my heart she seems a part of her pure song's inspired art, and as she plays the rosy grays of twilight halo hair and face, while sunset burns to ashes. O violin, cease, cease within my soul, O haunting violin! In vain you bring again, back from the past, the blissful pain of all the love then spoken, when on my breast at happy rest a sunny, while her head was pressed. Peace, peace to these wild memories, for like my heart naught remedies. Her violin lies broken.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Highwayman by Alfred Noyes, read for LibriVox.org by Terrance Callan. Part 1. The wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. The moon was a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas. The road was a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, and the highwayman came riding, riding, riding. The highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. He'd a French cocked hat on his forehead, a bunch of lace at his chin, a coat of the claret velvet, and breeches of brown doe-skin. They fitted with never a wrinkle, his boots were up to the thigh, and he rode with a jewelled twinkle, his pistol butts a twinkle, his rapier hilt a twinkle, under the jewelled sky. Over the cobbles he clattered and clashed in the dark inn-yard, and he tapped with his whip on the shutters, but all was locked and barred. He whistled a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love-knot into her long black hair. And dark in the old inn-yard a stable wicket creaked, where Tim the ostler listened. His face was white and peaked. His eyes were hollows of madness, his hair like mouldy hay. But he loved the landlord's daughter, the landlord's red-lipped daughter. Dumb as a dog he listened, and he heard the robber say, "One kiss, my bonny sweetheart, I'm after a prize tonight, but I shall be back with the yellow gold before the morning light. Yet if they press me sharply and harry me through the day, then look for me by moonlight, watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." He rose upright in the stirrups, he scarce could reach her hand, but she loosened her hair in the casement. His face burnt like a brand, as the black cascade of perfume came tumbling over his breast, and he kissed its waves in the moonlight, oh sweet black waves in the moonlight. Then he tugged at his rein in the moonlight, and galloped away to the west. Part 2. He did not come in the dawning, he did not come at noon, and out of the tawny sunset, before the rise of the moon, when the road was a gypsy ribbon, looping the purple moor, a red-coat troop came marching, marching, marching. King George's men came marching up to the old inn door. They said no word to the landlord, they drank his ale instead, but they gagged his daughter and bound her to the foot of her narrow bed. Two of them knelt at her casement, with muskets at their side. There was death at every window, and hell at one dark window, for Bess could see through her casement the road that he would ride. They had tied her up to attention, with many a sniggering jest. They had bound a musket beside her with the barrel beneath her breast. Now keep good watch, and they kissed her. She heard the dead man say, "Look for me by moonlight, watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." She twisted her hands behind her, but all the knots held good. She writhed her hands till her fingers were wet with sweat or blood. They stretched and strained in the darkness, and the hours crawled by like years, till now on the stroke of midnight, cold on the stroke of midnight, the tip of one finger touched it. The trigger, at least, was hers. The tip of one finger touched it. She strove no more for the rest. Up she stood to attention, with the barrel beneath her breast. She would not risk their hearing. She would not strive again, for the road lay bare in the moonlight, blank and bare in the moonlight, and the blood of her veins in the moonlight throbbed to her love's refrain. Tlot, 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 had they heard it, the horse hoofs ringing clear? Tlot, 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 in the distance, were they deaf that they did not hear? Down the ribbon of moonlight, over the brow of the hill, the highwayman came riding, riding, riding. The redcoats looked to their priming. She stood up straight and still. Tlot, tlot, in the frosty silence. Tlot, tlot, in the echoing night. Nearer he came and nearer. Her face was like a light. Her eyes grew wide for a moment. She drew one last deep breath. Then her finger moved in the moonlight. Her musket shattered the moonlight, shattered her breast in the moonlight, and warned him with her death. He turned, he spurred to the west. He did not know who stood, bowed with her head o'er the musket, drenched with her own red blood. Not till the dawn he heard it. His face grew grey to hear how Bess, the landlord's daughter, the landlord's black-eyed daughter, had watched for her love in the moonlight, and died in the darkness there. Back he spurred like a madman, shrieking a curse to the sky, with the white road smoking behind him and his rapier brandished high. Blood red were his spurs in the golden noon, wine red was his velvet coat, when they shot him down on the highway, down like a dog on the highway, and he lay in his blood on the highway with the bunch of lace at his throat. And still of winter's night they say, when the wind is in the trees, when the moon is a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas, when the road is a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, a highwayman comes riding, 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 a highwayman comes riding up to the old inn door. Over the cobbles he clatters and clangs in the dark inn yard. He taps with his whip on the shutters, but all is locked and barred. He whistles a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hymn written for Sunday School by Margaret Fuller. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. And he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's business? Luke 2:48-49. Thus early was Christ's course begun, thus radiant dawned celestial day, and those who such a race would run as early should be on the way. His Father's business was his care, yet in man's favor still he grew. O might we learn by thought and prayer, like him a work of love to do. Wisdom and virtue still he sought, nor ignorant nor vile despised. True was each action, pure each thought, and each pure hope he realized. The empires of this world in vain offered their scepters to his hand. Fearless he trod the stormy main, fearless mid throngs of foes could stand. Yet with his courage and his power combined such sweetness and such love, he could revere the simplest flower, the vilest sinners' firm reprove. For all mankind he came, nor yet an infant's visit would deny, nor friend nor mother did forget in his last hour of agony. O children, ask him to impart that spirit clear and temper mild, which made the mother in her heart keep all the sayings of her child. Bless him who said of such as you, his Father's kingdom is, and still his yoke to bear, his work to do. Study his life to learn his will. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
It May Be by John G. Nyhart. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. It may be we shall meet again hereafter, when we have grown too wise at length for tears, and we shall say with strange hysteric laughter, "My friend, how have you fared in all these years?" And we shall chatter, two old folk and toothless, about the golden dawn of life, and smile to see how time, with heavy hand and ruthless, hath scrawled upon the dial. And I shall take your hand, poor wrinkled hand, too nerveless grown to feel as now a thrill, and I shall try to make you understand. I wonder if you will. And I shall look dim-eyed into your eyes, with twilight in them where the day now glows, and search for some dim vestige of old skies, with dawn a-blossom in them like a rose. And in some manner, strange, inscrutable, some spark of psychic interchange may grow, that after all these years it may be well, and love light up the shadows where we go. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Living Poet by Henry Kendall. Read for LibriVox.org by Rags. He knows the sweet vexation in the strife of love with time. This bard, who fain would stray to fairer place beyond the storms of life, with astral faces near him day by day. In deep mossed dells the mellow waters flow, which best he loves, for there the echoes, rife with rich suggestions of his long ago, Astarte, pass with thee. And far away, dear southern seasons haunt the dreamy eye, spring flowers owned, and summer warbling low. In tasseled corn alternate come and go, while gypsy autumn, splashed from heel to thigh with vine blood, treads the leaves, and halting nigh, wild winter bends across a beard of snow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love Reflected in Nature by James Russell Lowell. Read for LibriVox.org by Cavaet. Our love is not a fading earthly flower. Its winged seed dropped down from paradise, and, nursed by day and night, by sun and shower, doth momently to fresher beauty rise. To us the leafless autumn is not bare, nor winter's rattling boughs lack lusty green. Our summer hearts make summer fulness where no leaf or bud or blossom may be seen. For nature's life in lover's deep life doth lie, love, whose forgetfulness is beauty's death, whose mystic key these selves of thou and I into the infinite freedom openeth, and makes the body's stark and narrow great the wide-flung leaves of heaven's palace gate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mary and Gabriel by Rupert Brooke. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Young Mary, loitering once her garden way, felt a warm splendor grow in the April day. as wine that blushes water through. And soon, out of the gold air of the afternoon, one knelt before her. Hair he had on fire, bound back above his ears with golden wire, bearing the eager marble of his face. Not man's nor woman's was the immortal grace, rounding the limbs beneath that robe of white, and lighting the proud eyes with changeless light, incurious, calm as his wings and fair, that presence filled the garden. She stood there, saying, "What would you, sir?" He told his word. "Blessed art thou of women." Half she heard, hands folded and face bowed, half long had known the message of that clear and holy tone, that fluttered hot sweet sobs about her heart. Such serene tidings moved such human smart. Her breath came quick as little flakes of snow. Her hands crept up her breast, she did but know it was not hers. She felt a trembling stir within her body, a will too strong for her that held and filled and mastered all. With eyes closed and 1,000 soft, short, broken sighs, she gave submission, fearful, meek, and glad. She wished to speak. Under her breast she had such multitudinous burnings to and fro, and throbs not understood. She did not know if they were hurt or joy for her, but only that she was grown strange to herself, half lonely, all wonderful, filled full of pains to come, and thoughts she dare not think, swift thoughts and dumb, human and quaint, her own yet very far, divine, dear, terrible, familiar. Her heart was faint for telling, to relate her limbs' sweet treachery, her strange high estate, over and over, whispering, half revealing, weeping, and so find kindness to her healing. Twixt tears and laughter, panic hurrying her, she raised her eyes to that fair messenger. He knelt unmoved, immortal, with his eyes gazing beyond her, calm to the calm skies. Radiant, untroubled in his wisdom, kind his sheaf of lilies stirred not in the wind. How should she, pitiful with mortality, try the wide peace of that felicity with ripples of her perplexed, shaken heart, and hints of human ecstasy, human smart, and whispers of lonely weight she bore? And how her womb within was hers no more, and at length hers. Being tired, she bowed her head and said, "So be it." The great wings were spread, showering glory on the fields and fire. The whole air singing bore him up and higher, unswerving, unreluctant. Soon he shone a gold speck in the gold skies, then was gone. The air was colder and gray. She stood alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Much Madness is Divinest Sense by Emily Dickinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye, much sense the starkest madness. 'Tis the majority, and this, as all, prevails. Assent, and you are sane. Demur, you're straightway dangerous, and handled with a chain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Star by Robert Browning. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. All that I know of a certain star is it can throw, like an angled spar, now a dart of red, now a dart of blue, till my friends have said they would fain see it too, my star that dartles the red and blue. Then it stops, like a bird, like a flower hangs furled. They must solace themselves with Saturn above it. What matter to me if their star is a world? Mine has opened its soul to me, therefore I love it. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nature That Washed Her Hands by Sir Walter Raleigh. Read for LibriVox.org by Cavaet. Nature that washed her hands in milk, and had forgot to dry them, instead of earth took snow and silk, at love's request to try them, if she a mistress could compose, to please love's fancy out of those. Her eyes he would should be of light, of violet breath and lips of jelly, her hair not black nor over bright, and of the softest down her belly. As for her inside he'd have it, only of wantonness and wit. At love's entreaty such a one nature made, but with her beauty she hath framed a heart of stone, so as love by ill destiny must die for her whom nature gave him, because her darling would not save him. But time, which nature doth despise, and rudely gives her love the lie, makes hope a fool and sorrow wise. His hands doth neither wash nor dry, but being made of steel and rust, turns snow and silk and milk to dust. The light, the belly, lips, and breath, he dims, discolours, and destroys. With those he feeds, but fills not death, which sometimes were the food of joys. Yet time doth dull each lively wit, and dries all wantonness with it. O cruel time, which takes in trust our youth, our joys, and all we have, and pays us but with age and dust, who in the dark and silent grave, when we have wandered all our ways, shuts up the story of our days. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nyctalops by Clark Ashton Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. Ye that see in darkness, when the moon is drowned, in the coiling fen mist, far along the ground. Ye that see in darkness, say, what have you found? We have seen strange atoms trysting on the air, the dust of vanished lovers long parted in despair, the dust of flowers that withered in worlds of otherwhere. We have seen the nightmares winged down the sky, bat-like and silent, to where the sleepers lie. We have seen the blossoms of the succubi. We have seen the crystal of dead Medusa's tears. We have watched the undines that wane in stagnant weirs, the mandrakes madly dancing by black blood-swollen meres. We have seen the satyrs, their ancient loves renewed, with moon-white nymphs of cypress, pale druids of the yew, in the tall grass of the graveyards, weighed down with evening's dew. We have seen the darkness, where charnel things decay, where atom moves with atom in shining swift array, like ordered constellations on some sidereal way. We have seen fair colors that dwelt not in the light, intenser gold and iris, occult and recondite. We have seen the black suns pouring forth the night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Read for LibriVox.org by Terrance Callan. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, If the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the north church tower as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm. Then he said good night, and with muffled oar silently rowed to the Charleston shore, just as the moon rose o'er the bay, where swinging wide at her moorings lay the Somerset, British man-of-war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tide. Meanwhile his friend through alley and street wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he hears the muster of men at the barrack door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers marching down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed the tower of the old North Church, by the wooden stairs with stealthy tread, to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the sombre rafters that round him made masses and moving shapes of shade, by the trembling ladder steep and tall to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear, like a sentinel's tread, the watchful night wind as it went, creeping along from tent to tent and seeming to whisper, "All is well." A moment only he feels the spell of the place and the hour and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and floats on the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now gazed at the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped the earth and turned and tightened his saddle girth. But mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and sombre and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes, till full on his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles in passing a spark struck out by a steed, flying fearless and fleet. That was all. And yet through the gloom and the light the fate of a nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep, and beneath him, tranquil, broad, and deep, is the mystic, meeting the ocean tides, and under the alders that skirt its edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of his steed as he rides. It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises after the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting-house windows, blank and bare, gazed at him with a spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown. And one was safe and asleep in his bed, who at the bridge would be first to fall, who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball. You know the rest, in the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again, under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load. So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For borne on the night wind of the past, through all our history to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will waken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed, and the midnight message of Paul Revere. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Piper of Arll by Duncan Campbell Scott. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. There was in Arll a little cove, where the salt wind came cool and free, a foamy beach that one would love if he were longing for the sea. A brook hung sparkling on the hill swept far to ring the bay. The bay was faithful, wild or still, to the heart of the ocean far away. There were 3 pines above the combe, that when the sun flared and went down, grew like 3 warriors reaving home the plunder of a burning town. A piper lived within the grove, tending the pasture of his sheep. His heart was swayed with faithful love from the springs of God's ocean clear and deep. And there a ship one evening stood, where ship had never stood before. A pennon bickered red as blood, and angels glimmered at the prow. About the coming on of dew, the sails burned rosy and the spars were gold, and all the tackle grew alive with ruby-hearted stars. The piper heard an outland tongue, with music in the cadence fall, and when the fairy lights were hung, the sailors gathered one and all. And leaning on the gunwales dark, crusted with shells and dashed with foam, with all the dreaming hills to hark, they sang their longing songs of home. When the sweet airs had fled away, the piper, with a gentle breath, molded a tranquil melody of lonely love and longed for death. When the fair sound began to lull from out the fireflies and the dew, a silence held the shadowy hull until the eerie tune was through. Then from the dark and dreamy deck an alien song began to thrill. It mingled with the drumming beck and stirred the braerd upon the hill. Beneath the stars each sent to each a message tender, till at last the piper slept upon the beach, the sailors slumbered round the mast. Still as a dream till nearly dawn, the ship was bosomed on the tide. The streamlet, murmuring on and on, bore the sweet water to her side. Then shaking out her lawny sails, forth on the misty sea she crept. She left the dawning of the dales, yet in his cloak the piper slept. And when he woke he saw the ship, limned black against the crimson sun. Then from the disk he saw her slip, a wraith of shadow, she was gone. He threw his mantle on the beach, he went apart like one diswrought. His lips were moved, his desperate speech stormed his inviolable thought. He broke his human-throated reed, and threw it in the idle rill, but when his passion had its meed, he found it in the eddy still. He mended well the patient flew, and he tried its varied stops. The closures answered right and true, and starting out in piercing drops. A melody began to drip, that mingled with a ghostly thrill, the vision spirit of the ship, the secret of his broken will. Beneath the pines he piped and swayed, master of passion and of power. He was his soul, and what he played, immortal for a happy hour. He, singing into nature's heart, guiding his will by the world's will, with deep unconscious childlike art, had sung his soul out and was still. And then at evening came the bark that stirred his dreaming heart's desire. It burned slow lights along the dark that died in glooms of crimson fire. The sailors launched a sombre boat and bent with music at the oars, the rhythm throbbing every throat and lapsing round the liquid shores. Was that true tune the piper sent unto the wave-worn mariners, when with the beck and ripple blent he heard the outland song of theirs? Silent they rowed him, dip and drip, the oars beat out an exequy. They laid him down within the ship, they loosed a rocket to the sky. It broke in many a crimson sphere that grew to gold and floated far, and left the sudden shoreline clear with one slow changing drifting star. Then out they shook the magic sails that charmed the wind in other seas. From where the west line purls and pales, they waited for a ruffling breeze. But in the world there was no stir. The cordage slacked with never a creak. They heard the flame begin to purr within the lantern at the peak. They could not cry, they could not move. They felt the lure from the charmed sea. They could not think of home or love, or any pleasant land to be. They felt the vessel dip and trim, and settle down from list to list. They saw the sea-plane heave and swim as gently as a rising mist. And down so slowly, down and down, rivet by rivet, plank by plank, a little flood of ocean flown, across the deck she sank and sank. From knee to breast the water wore, it crept and crept ere they were ware. Gone was the angel at the prow, they felt the water float their hair. They saw the salt plain spark and shine, they threw their faces to the sky. Beneath a deepening film of brine, they saw the star flash blur and die. She sank and sank by yard and mast, sank down the shimmering gradual dark. A little drooping pennon last showed like the black fin of a shark. And down she sank, till keeled in sand, she rested safely balanced true, with all her upward gazing band, the piper and the dreaming crew. And there, unmarked of any chart, in unrecorded deeps they lie, empearled with the purple heart of the great sea for eye and eye. Their eyes are ruby in the green, long shaft of sun that spreads and rays, and upward with a wizard sheen, a fan of sea light leaps and plays. Tendrils of ore and azure creep, the globes of amber light are rolled, and in the gloaming of the deep their eyes are starry pits of gold. And sometimes in the liquid night the hull is changed, a solid gem, that glows with a soft stony light, the lost prince of a diadem. And at the keel a vine is quick, that spreads its binds and works and weaves, o'er all the timbers veining thick, a plenitude of silver leaves. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Pygmalion by Frederick Tennyson. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. February 13, 2025. Pygmalion 1. A May morn by the azure sea, a morn so vital in the freshness of its youth, that sorrow should have fled before its beams, as from the crimson lips and laughing eyes of some fair girl bent down to look on him, and charm him into mirth and merry songs. The warm wind smote the tops of blooming briars, and caught away their roses, and the sound of silver ripples chiming o'er the shells and golden sands was as a low-toned hymn, chanted to the clear peaceful morning skies, by the delighted waters, not far off, nor yet so near as to o'ercome the tongues of solitude The city with its towers sparkled from out green gardens, and I stood, gazing about me in that blissful hour, that brought no bliss to me, but made me sadder, with thoughts of all those ills that had been done, in mine unhappy island home, whose seas and shores, so lovely in the morning light, were overcast as by a thundercloud, by memories of blood that seemed to rise between me and the sun. I, who had throned the beautiful within my heart of hearts, yearned for some hushed spot out of reach of man, where I might worship it in perfect peace and purest passion. On me daily grew that passion, strengthening till it overcame all other motions of the soul, and armed my heart 'gainst light affections. No dark eyes of the loose laughing daughters of the isle could stir me when I set them by the side of that one form invisible to sight, visible to the soul, which day and night I feasted on, till the ideal grew more real than all things outward, and I saw more with an inner sight than with mine eyes. 2. Then said I, Pardon, goddess of this isle, Urania, ever blessed, if I turn less toward thine altars crowned with flowers, than back to the all-lovely image in my heart, and worship there. Oh, pardon me, methinks I see in peerless beauty there enshrined, as fair a goddess as was ever crowned upon Olympus, and at times I dream that such a radiant image can be naught except thine own, thus mirrored in my soul, as thy white columned temple in the blue of this calm sea, so that I faint, I sigh, if this could be. Ah, no, it cannot be. And if it were, can mortal be beloved by the immortals? Can they love them? No, 'tis but a dream, a spirit picture drawn by many an unrecorded influence, as many diverse odors borne from far and near, from hill and plain, from leaf and flower, poured through the sense, commingle into one. As shadows of the myrtle slopes behind, I see before me now and evermore. Though the wild waves and storm winds shatter them, they will return in the returning hours of sunny windless calm. So 'twixt all change of momentary troubles, tumults, cares, discourse, diversions, in me rises up the one bright image, sweet, ineffable. 3. Oh, mystery beyond all knowledge, how can such things be? Great power is above us all. Hath someone from amid ye made a heaven within me that I see with such clear sight? The peerless brow beneath the golden hair, the blue eyes and the parted crimson lips, whose lavish tenderness dissolves my being, and wins me from all thoughts of mortal beauty. Therefore, henceforth, if I withhold my heart, goddess, from such affections and delights, as thou inspirest in this blissful clime, and fair land, where thine odorous temples shine, and thee sweet breath from inland gardens blown, kisses the sea breeze from the snowy crests of the warm waves, and all things speak of thee. If I withhold me, and about me gird an adamantine corslet, proof against all human influences, light of eyes, love songs, melodious voices, all soft thoughts, born of the spring and youthful moods, and those swift radiances that pass across the face, flash from the heart, and are reflexes pale, of inner ardors deeper than all thought, dumb raptures and unutterable thrills, pulses of instincts from unfathomed deeps of being, which do in a moment melt hard hearts as adamant with lightning points. All these I war against if from without they reach me. Now they reach me from within. 4. Pardon me then, dear goddess, if this form, this matchless picture, or this glorious dream, within me wins from me a nobler love, and purer aspirations than belong to aught without me. Though there come to me no hope through all my lonely mortal life, worse widowhood, which weeps not for the good departed, but the good that cannot be. But as I live, so also shall I die. Yet still must worship at that inner shrine, where she is glorified. But this I vow, no outward act that shall dishonor thee. Urania, whose heavenly purity, profaned here, is well nigh laughed to scorn. By thee lacks life of heartless vanity, where summer passions, like the gaudy fly, and one day live and die, who call that love, which, as a lightning flash or falling star, burns and goes by, and is no more remembered. If I deny me any mortal love, however holy, truthful, chaste, and pure, I will refrain from all that in the life might shame thy majesty, Urania. Then pardon me, oh pardon me, but not the less shall all my coming days be given to one sole labor, one surpassing toil. I will not sleep till I have prayed to dream of that rare fantasy, that it may be the more impressed upon my inner sense, and when I wake, the beauty that I see may be transferred with might and very truth to the dead marble till I make it live, and strive through years of life, albeit in vain, to show that outward which I shrine within, beauty though imaged unimaginable, till time, through all his future, shall delight to look on that which this inspired hand shall fashion, and I bid death stand and wait, till I have multiplied 1,000-fold each lovely change of that immortal form, and left so vast an heritage of art, to coming generations they shall cry, enough, we feel despair, to us belongs only to look and live by loving these. We can add naught except our endless praise. 5. Alas, how little did I understand my little strength. No sooner did I set my hand to throw forth into outward act, the spiritual impress into force, the silent marble to give back to sense, the soul's creation, then a wondrous change passed over me. Now 'twas no more in me the adoration of a mortal man, for high immortal presences, a man's far off and passionless humility. Methought with every motion of my hand, the invisible became a real thing, and more wrought on me day by day, till I cried wildly, "Oh, I'll give it life!" And wherefore no? The very thought begat a sudden incarnation of the dream, as 'twere, and more enchanting than itself, which I had deemed without a parallel. And now it seemed a mockery to unfold such thoughts from marble. Oh, a childish play, a poor vain pastime, could not steadfast will, earnest, intent desire with patient toil, become resistless. I would give it life, give strength and motion to a shade, and make the metaphysical and ultimate in nature clothed with fitting attributes. Then mortal weakness mocked me, and I cried, oh, for some god able to read my heart, and see all there to work for me a while. Or still, still, I must bow down to toil, to make thought fruitful. Madness seized on me. For now I thought that verily the dream would be fulfilled in time, that faith, such faith, would work me miracles, then let me work the irresponsive substance till it lives, for the cold senseless marble void of warmth, and sympathy and gladness where it wrought, e'en by the fervent genius of a god, into consummate grace without the fire of love that moves this hand, would be as far from my blessed image as the dead cold moon, far from the blessed midsummer sun at noon. 6. And after many a day, when my long toil was well nigh o'er, the sweet delirium of fantasy waxed wilder than before, I cried, she lives, she breathes, and even then a red glow from the sunset smote upon the love-born image, and my madness grew. Wrapped and entranced and drowned in my own dream, I stood apart to make the ideal true. I snatched a scarlet robe and chain of gold, and threw it round the fair cold marble neck, the work of my own hands. And now my work seemed perfected. It was as life itself, so living true, that for a little space, lost to all knowledge of the world without and world within, I fell down at the feet of the unconscious form myself had wrought. Divine creation, born of love inspired, shall all be given unto thee, but the gift, most needful, power of motion, feeling, act, to speak, to turn upon my tender eyes, the tenderness of thine, to crown my toil with that crown of all blisses, love of him who made thee lovable. Hear me, love, look on me, or turn from me, and I wept, in that sweet agony of fantasy, till sense from weariness of nature failed, and I sank down upon the marble floor, in a long swoon, broken by troubled thoughts. And while I lay tranced in that sudden swoon, mine inner eyes were opened, and I saw, round me as in a dream, heroic men, tall as the gods. I heard them speak together, a sound like tuneful waters of deep things, veiled from the thought of man. Seest thou, said one, this poor sick youth, who would transfer the power and life we give him momently to cold, unsympathetic stone? how nigh to death he lies, as though in very truth his life had been bestowed upon the bloodless shape, and he was left without it. Yet he hears our voices, and albeit his natural sense is close to space and time, he now may learn that man is twofold. Now the body lies, as it might lie e'en if the soul were fled, and if it were so, yet he were not dead. For though it be not whispered on the earth, and may not be for cycles yet to come, there is one life, but one, that rolls through all, as the circumfluent ebless fire and light floods from the sun forever, and fills in the natural forms of being. So all the lives of all the spirits, both of men and gods, are but the vessels filled from one great spring, according to their measures, and as that life can never die, so man must live forever. When one is stricken to the earth, as he, this boy, by death himself, last ill so called, 'tis death himself shall take him by the hand, and bring him home, that home where we are now, a swifter spirit with a nobler form, and fairer youth, though differing yet the same, built of such substance as shall nevermore take hurt from flood, or fire, or rending steel, or pestilential air. Let him remember, the thing that now lies stretched upon the floor is not the man, although the beating heart, the throbbing pulse, and all the wondrous ways of life within his limbs surpass the dreams of poet or of sage in miracle. But that which sees and hears and loves and fears, and thinks and knows and has the power to move, this fallen creature that men take for man. And yet the glittering eyes, the laughing lip, the utterance articulate and clear, and all that seems fair and majestical, is but the veil that hangs before the shrine, that hides the oracle which it reveals. Men meet together, but man sees not man, only the flowing robe that circles him. So these smooth outward tissues of the body shut up the mighty universe within, so fearfully and wonderfully made. This youth may know now that he lives, although, were he to see another stricken thus, he would cry, "Dead!" Another voice was heard. How long shall man live on in a vain dream, that what is outward is reality, the inward but a shadow, that the form is the true man and not his minister, that with the ruin of the natural frame, thought dies, as heat and motion fly from it, that from circumference to center life proceeds, and not contrariwise, that nature is the great source of life, not life of nature. Hence have they deified the natural, beyond which they see nothing, and led on, by sense, they worship the material, and sensuous, the loveliness of shape, the bloom of youth, which are the outward signs of inward states. To them are all they dream of lovable, strength, symbol of true power. They venerate, but not the power for good, strength images, delights, which through the sense picture the soul's diviner attributes. To them are all things, so that pleasure, lust, glory, and pride, and vengeance are their gods, raised from the dust to sit on thrones in heaven. But oh, the life divine, the only life, earthward descends, and not ascends from it, and secretly, and yet most surely works, within the inmost temple of man's soul, against the many tongues of his self-love, whispering with still small voice when they are mute. Behold the earth in winter, how it sleeps, formless and void, no hue of beauty there, no heat of motion, as the tranced form of this poor boy. But now the spirit of spring bends o'er it with her warm and pulsing wings, and runs through all the labyrinthine walks and mystic ways of nature, and behold, she is transfigured, e'en as the face of man, awakening after slumber in the morn, laughs at the first sight of the rising sun, and lo, the dull cold apathy of sleep lightens with all inimitable grace, and then first the man begins to live, as the dawnlight first glancing o'er the earth brings it its glory and its beauty back. The life divine raises and recreates, subliming into his self-consciousness the natural man, till he, who was in sleep, the shadow of death, at morn becomes a god. Because 'tis then that this one life divine, which is man's too, so far as he can bear, and is the man, again begins to move. Within the finite, nature is not lord, but slave of man, and to his spirit bows, as every leaf of a great forest moves, before the winds of morn. And were it not that this one life, this one eternal life, this infinite for wisest purposes, had suffered man to hold his finite being, as 'twere his own possession, that he might, feeling his weakness, his infirmities, his many natural evils, feeling too, that his own strength can never raise him up beyond the accusing voice of conscience, voice divine that whispers to him what he is, his many wants, his follies, and his pride, that he might call upon that one great life for help, to the All-Father lift his hands, and cry as doth a weeping, woeful child. Were it not so each day and every hour, did he but know his life were not his own, he would stand as that marble statue, cold, his heart unmoved, his lips expressionless, no hope, no fear, no prayer to wing to God. See how the pale cold marble he hath touched, which hath no life, but such as atoms have, that cling together, from his soul hath caught some of its light, and could he give it life, which it might feel as man himself its own, then, if he hid himself behind a screen, what would the statue think, to find itself, alone, with senses wakened to the world, and though with no more soul than hath a bird, that breaks its shell, and looks around, and sees, amid the vast and bright and wonderful, only its mother and a grain of corn, would it not feel I live, not who hath made me? And did he step forth, and with rude dominion rule o'er the fearful creature day by day, and hour by hour, revealing to it more its abject utter weakness, showing it his own great riches and its penury, and that it could not will or feel or move without his license, would it not lament the being without liberty, and crave the free wing of the lark, the glorious strength of the wild horse, the blisses of the bee, that sings and roves? Would it not, could it speak, say, wherefore hast thou made me thus a slave, while all things else, like thee, are glad and free? So hath the infinite in wisdom framed, the finite, on dead dust hath set the seal of his own power and beauty, and hath made that dust obedient to the life which he hath breathed into it, then hath hid himself behind the selfhood of the man, that he, wandering alone in light and dark, might feel, at length, that he had need of other strength than his own selfhood in this mighty world of unimaginable wonderment, and weep and tremble, and at last behold, dimly as 'twere afar off, the All-Father, with arms stretched down to him, although he dwells not far off, but so nigh to each of us, that if his life were not ours, we were not. 7. No sooner were they parted than I seemed to wander by the long shores of the sea, far off to silent nooks and shelly grots, and turned aside into green glades and glens, and myrtle valleys by the bowery huts of fishers and of country folk. The sun twinkled through the twine leaves and blossoms pale, and made the lilies of the spring with light, transparent, touched the cypresses with gold. Not far away a low sound of the waves chimed to the linnet's twitter, and the flutes of many blackbirds, while I stood to breathe the sweet airs, charmed with the soft hour and clime. I saw a young face peering through the boughs of a rose laurel. What a face, O heaven! It must be, it is she, the very form of my own marble wonder, but withal that which poor marble lacked, the self, the life. I stretched my arms, I wept, I cried in sleep, and my own passion woke me, and lo, the night had fallen, scarce a glimpse of twilight cheered the still cold chamber, and the mantled form was hidden from me in the thickening gloom. Now, for the rosy kisses of the sun, a shapeless blackness met my yearning eyes. Instead of youth and beauty, dreary death. But what is this? Is it the rising moon, or glimmering sheen of burning from afar? For, quick as thought, a golden radiance rained through the roof upon me, and lit up the chamber, waxing every moment more, till it grew sunlike, and so dazzling bright, I veiled my eyes, and soon the glory wrapped the marble image in its folds. O heaven! And was it giving it the life I dreamed? Mean as the sunbeam opens the dead seed, and speeds the blossom, for methought those eyes began to move, the quivering lips to part, and the whole form to pulse with fires of life. I smote my brow, that I might know for sure that I was not a dream. I cried aloud, as dreamers are not wont, and all the walls, columns, and arches echoed to the sound. And as the echoes died in whispers off, the sound was taken up by the other sounds, that came like silver tones of virgin tongues, and seemed to float down on the starry beams, nearer and nearer, till they ceased. And then I heard another voice articulate, I know thy thoughts in life, I heard thy prayer. The pure heart only wins the beautiful, choked by the serpents of self-love and pride. It is defiled, dishonored. The dark heart is not a temple where white innocence can flee for refuge. Beauty there enshrined, however pure and spotless in itself, is there transfigured and becomes at once dark as the shadow by white marble cast, the inverse of itself. Thou hast not sought the haunts of those who crown themselves with flowers, that droop and wither in 1 hour, like their brief blisses rooted in the dust of death, where no good is, the revel and the dance, and midnight wine cup thou hast scorned and fled. All mockeries of the beautiful and true, done in a day to be undone the next, thou hast despised. The light love and the vain pledge and the joy no sooner won than lost, like the torn petals of a trodden rose. Thy heart was fixed upon a godlike dream, a pure white image of a purer thought, where twin hearts thirsting after good and truth blend into one through mutual sympathy. The love of the one heart is taken up and planted in the other, as cord to cord trembles when both are knit in unison. My pure ideal was immortal love, imperishable essence not to seize with this brief life of nature, but pass out, and waxing ever onward in fresh strength, new raptures, daily kindled ecstasies, become a lamp, illumining all things, a fire subduing all things to itself, a power to melt and mold all outward forms, like as thy hand the marble, as the will, directs and guiding intellectual light, until the heaven within thee shall unfold, and fashion to itself an outward world, and sky above thee brighter than all skies, that spread themselves over this earth of thine, according to thy state, a purer air, a more enchanting earth, a nobler sun, a universe of wonders from without, painting a universe of bliss within. My state was known to thee, immortal spheres, so we have led thee onward step by step, unto this day. The very fire within thee, we breathed into thee, and the glorious form, which thou hast wrought in marble, is a type of thine eternity. Behold it there. It is a shadow of the life to be, when inner states shall mold the outward shows, which shall react upon the inner state, and multiply all joys to manifold. Alas, I cried, my spirit only lives, but this cold form is dead, though sometimes I, full oft I dreamt that it had taken life, and woke to find it but a dream, and hold myself the slave of things impalpable, that are as truth. Last night I dreamt 'twas so. 8. Last night thou dreamst, said the voice. That dream was sent to thee, and was not sent in vain. It was the shadow of a day long past, when thy young heart was stricken unawares, with the rare beauty of a face beheld but for a moment, but that moment set and framed inanimate lived in thy heart, hid like the burning diamond in a mine. The troubles of the time, the whirl of change, the waves of many sorrows have rolled o'er that moment, like the great seas o'er a pearl. But when the flood reels back, the pearl is seen. So when the tumults of the time had passed, faint influences like the smell of flowers in twilight, or the inexpressible, sweet light that hovers twixt the day and night, when all is hushed, dim glory as a dawn rose in thy heart, and by our strength and power it strengthened till it burst into a sun, seized hold of thee as only real can, possessing thee as with a double life. It strung thee to a supernatural might of effort, raised thee to a godlike height, and wrought in thee divinely, till at length the love that burnt within thee showed without, and centering in that marble image, thy creation was reflected back to thee, stirring the soul's faint sparkles till they broke in flame, and thou wert mad, as men would say, who see the states they cannot reach unto, like a far fire upon a mountain peak, dilating in a mist, or envying bliss, They cannot feel, they breathe on it with lies. Till the world, looking for divinity, in the bright mirror of a godlike soul, sees but a cloud. 9. Again the heavenly voice, sweeter than song. I bid thee have no fear, lest thy fond love shall have no counterpart. She too hath had her dream, the soft blue eyes thou sawest in the thicket met thine own, and sure as light reflected in a mirror. The ardent loving wonder in thy face flew back to thee out of the maiden's heart. From that day forth in noonday quietness of midnight slumber those dark eyes of thine, thou raptured youth, flashing beneath thy curls, as starlight through the clouds appear before her. She worketh too, but not thy handicraft, the joy of coming ages. Man must throw his strength out or must perish. Woman lives, and feeds upon celestial fantasies. We have each pictured faithfully the other. Tell me, O goddess, must I only live to love my own creation, or wilt thou give life to this sweet work of hand and brain? For where, oh where to find her who hath lived within this heart? Haply she lives no more. And the hot whirlwinds of revolt and war have fallen on her, swept her from the stem of household safety like a broken rose that falls ungathered, or some other man hath wedded her, and now I am forgot, or but remembered as a thing so vain that with her dreams she only ranks it now. I will give life to this thy marble love, Urania cried. Live, live! Again the sound of these sweet silvery voices came anear. The golden light flowed round more gloriously, and it began to move. Oh, heaven, I cried, what thing is this? Wonder unparalleled. Down from the pedestal it softly stepped, and slowly drawing back the veil, I saw the countenance that I had carved in stone, glowing and vital, eyes whose fixed orbs, senseless and colorless, had mocked my sense, and only took their life from my own soul, moved radiantly, deep blue, with golden fire, that wandered through them, cold, though rounded cheeks, bloomed rosy clear, and then the sculptured lips, though matchless in their form, unmoved by joy or sorrow, now waxed scarlet, dewy, warm. And then I heard a voice, oh yes, I heard a girlish voice, sweet as a valley brook, low-tongued and musical, but ere she spoke, the goddess spoke again. Oh, pardon her, that she hath sought thee. Is not this an answer unto the plaint that said, where shall I find her? She hath been led unto thee by sweet impulse, and breathed. This is she whom thou didst see in the rose thicket on that morn of May, when fearful thoughts were stronger in thy heart than memories of young beauty. So the last vanished from out the earth to live within thee, in thy deep heart's most inmost sanctuary. No more of space and time, but as the gods, immortal. Take her, she is worthy of thee, for she hath fed on wild flowers, and hath drunk the dews of nature. She hath marked the changes of the swift year with love's own faithful art. Sweet pictures in the chambers of her heart she hath hung up, clear morns and glowing evens, green turf walks murmuring with the noonday bees, and summer birds, and they shall never fade. The majesty of midnight with its stars, and summer moon, and she hath loved to watch when the dread winter winds began to blow, to see the moon run up the thunder hills, the glory of the tempest and its gloom, rended with fire, and all things that are sweet, noble, and pure have made of her one heart, a mirror that shall give back all of thine. Beauty is beauty's mate, thus should it be, and fantasy that makes thee what thou art, breathing from thee upon the magic mirror, will call to life as often as thou wilt thine own best thoughts for answer, and shall burnish those hues and forms of memory till they live, a better life impregnated by thine. So love in ye shall be a twofold one. Not only this, but whatsoe'er she lacks, thou wilt supply, and what in thee is not, she shall give to thee, thus forevermore. Shall ye spread in variety forever, be centered more and more in unity, till everlasting aeons shall but serve to bring ye more together. As she spoke, again the music breathed, the voices sang, and subtle influences penetrating the soul, expanding and exalting it, as with invisible wings drew us together. She moved, then bent down to me, and I leant towards her, one hand upon my shoulder laid. She pressed the other to her heart. Those eyes, those deep blue eyes, with their soft lightnings turned to mine, those lovely lips a little parted, the bosom heaving softly as the swell of summer waters. Then, oh then I knew what was the beauty born of fantasy, what that of nature, fancy born it is, imperfect, unsubstantial, insecure, though from that very imperfection springs the ardent thirst to see it perfected. So we mistake love's ghost for love itself, as in the moonlight hueless, formless flowers that stir not, and the garden leafage dark, beget in us the longing to behold them, arrayed in colors of the morning sun, their bridal robes kissed by the loving light, the living loveliness of nature's self. 'Twas this then I had dreamt of, it was this that warmed my heart, which fondly I believed, stirred by the outwrought image in my brain. And now 'twas true, oh true, and fantasy kindled no moony lamp within my soul. Yet needs must I have turned to thee, sweet youth, and perfect beauty of this peerless one. As to my lodestar, so the total earth and its inhabitants would hail at once, with songs and rapture, the first break of day, the sunrise, had it never dawned before. But tenfold was the fervor of that fire, the light of that reality, which drawn into the furnished chambers of the heart, hung with the mirrors of my fantasy, from each received an image of itself, kindling afresh its warmth, its light, its life. Some spirit rare had sung to me a song, faint, sweet, ineffable, and dying off, and then returning. Now my heart and brain were filled to overflow with echoed notes, golden and everlasting, of the full, celestial harmony. Now had I heard that paean of the heart, that triumph voice of nature and of being, bliss no more to be exceeded, which to drink and die, and fly away forever from this world of change, and shelter underneath the wings of some all-potent God of gods, who can shield from all evil man might yearn, might pray for. 10. As were my thoughts, e'en such were hers, I knew, and so she told me in sweet after hours of calm. Such was that subtlest sympathy on which all true love builds, and which we poured silently into one another's eyes. The golden light was drawn up from the earth, the silver voices seemed to faint away, and pass up through bright mountain paths of cloud, back into heaven, and silence breathed instead, except the rose leaves rustling in the air, and babbling of a fountain. Suddenly I started wildly. Had it been a dream? No, there she stood in twilight that seemed dark after the glory, so I saw her not, till my eyes opened to the waning light. 'Twas but a moment, 'twas but a moment, but in that moment I had deemed her false, feared she had fled away, but she was there, and now I heard her speak. Now first I heard. Her eyes had spoken in their radiance, her heart in its swift pulse, her beaming cheeks, and mute lips each its utterance. Oh, but now, my own, she cried. I answered her, my own. Again we spoke together in those tones that trembling met in one another's hearts, as sun-smit undulations in mid-sea kiss and are joined at once in perfect peace. Love, love, my own, my only one. Love, love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Rivals by Mark Van Doren. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. On a night of whirling snow, when every twig and star is dead, there is a house where I can go and knock and enter and be fed with fire and wine. And as we grumble, winter ceases on the panes. The outer heights of darkness tumble down and in upon our brains, and sitting there, so bitter bright, we build a season of our own, of cynic ice and sudden white blasts of understanding blown. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rosas by John Masefield. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. January 30, 2025. Rosas. There was an old lord in the Argentine named Rosas, of the oldest blood in Spain. His wife was the proud last of a proud line. She ruled his house for him and farmed his plain. They had one child, a tameless boy called Juan, who was a little lad a century gone. This little boy, the Rosas' only child, was not like other children of his age. His body seemed the trap to something wild, that bit the trap bars bloody in his rage. He had mad eyes which glittered and were grim. Even as a child men were afraid of him. And once, when old Lord Rosas at a fair talked with his friends, this little boy being by, an old man called the child and touched his hair, and watched the wild thing trapping in his eye, then bade the child go play, and being gone, wept bitter tears in sight of every one. And when Lord Rosas asked him why he cried, he said, because I see round that child's head a sign of evil things that will betide. Through him, being man, there is a blur of red, a blur of blood, a devil at his side. I see his future, that was why I cried. I am an old, old man limping to death, and many a wicked thing have I seen done, bloody and evil as the preacher saith, or ill men's dealings underneath the sun. But this bright child is fated to such crime as will make mark a bloody smear on time. So he went weeping, while the gossips bade Lord Rosas not to heed the poor old loon. Lord Rosas died soon after, and was laid deep in the pit where all lie late or soon, under the flagstone in the chancel dim. Evil and happy fate were one to him. After his death, his widow ruled the son, some few short years, some bitter bouts they had. That old, hot, proud, ununderstanding one roused night and day the devil in the lad. She with her plans, and he with all his dreams, of the great world washed by the ocean streams. It was the custom in that outland plain, that young man nobly born should serve a while, under some merchant, keeping store for gain, so to learn commerce, and by service vile, sweeping the floors, to sense with gritted teeth, man in this world of his from underneath. And seeing life, because those merchants' stores were clubs and markets used by every one, for plots and bargains and the test of ores, Senora Rosas ordered that her son should, like his father, enter, being of age, a country storehouse as the merchant's page. I do as father did, he answered. I sweep out a cheater's office with a broom and peddle sardines? I had rather die. While there's a cow to brand or horse to groom, I'll be a man. So let your merchant find some priest or eunuch with my father's mind. She spoke again. He said, I will not go. Then she replied, my son, you shall not eat nor drink until you do. You tell me, no. A resty calf that quarrels with the teat shall starve for me. Men locked this braggart lad into his room. They did as they were bawd. They left him in his room all through the day, but neither food nor drink. They asked him thrice, Juan, here is dinner. Will you not obey? They brought him raisin biscuits to entice him to obey. His friend the horse herd came, but Juan would neither answer nor be tame. When twilight fell, his mother asked again, Juan, be advised, be wise, and do my will. Why be so headstrong, giving me such pain? Are you not hungry? There is dinner still. Say you will go, then come and eat with me. I won't, he said. Then you may starve, said she. So when the night was dark, the mother said, leave him tonight. Tomorrow we shall find his fall all's cured, and I shall be obeyed. No cure like hunger to a stubborn mind. Then through the keyhole to her son she cried, good night, my son. None answered from inside. Then, when the morning came, they knocked the door. Juan, will you go? They asked. No answer came. One said, I see him lying on the floor. He is asleep or playing at some game. Come, Master Juan, don't treat Our Lady so. Look, here are eggs. Be good and say you'll go. No answer came. So then they craned and peered into the keyhole at the room beyond. Pray God, said one, it be not as I feared. A lad so proud should never be in bond. He had his Indian lance head on the shelf. Juan, Master Juan, he may have killed himself. Juan, God he has. He's lying on the floor. Look, there's his body. Fetch the crowbars here. Yes, he is dead, God help us. Burst the door. Run for a doctor. One, a dear, a dear. He was the likeliest lad there ever was. Now, Ramon, heave. now Martin, now Tomas, heave! So they hove and entered with the heave. What they had thought was one was but a pile of clothing rolled to man's shape to deceive. Juan was not there, he had been gone a while. His bed was cold, a penciled letter lay there on his clothes, but Juan had run away. Dear mother, said the letter, you and I, with different souls must live by different laws. I give back all you gave me, now goodbye. If I go naked hence, you know the cause. I keep my father's name. When I am gone, I shall be gone forever. I am Juan. He had gone naked into the night air. He and his mother never met again. He wandered southwards many leagues from there, past the last ranches to the Indian plain, south to the ranges where the spirits brood, to daunt wild horses for his livelihood. There on the ranges with a half-wild crew of gauchos, cutthroats, thieves, and broken rakes, he caught and broke wild horses. There he knew death as the bloody pay of all mistakes. There, in the Indian forays he was bred, to capture cults and squalls and scalp the dead. There he got strength and skill, till all men there, even the Indians, spoke of him as fey. He beat the unbacked stallion from his mare, and mounted him, and made the beast obey, and bitted him and broke, and rode him home, tame as a gelding staring, white with foam. There was no horse so wild he could not break him, by hands in one small thong. No gaucho brave, wrestling him naked, knee to knee, could shake him, or in the knife game give him what he gave, or in the midnight's thundering cattle hunt, past the mad herd, like him, to turn their front. But most of all, men saw him take the lead, in wartime when the Indian tribes were out. Then he paid bloody threat by bloody deed, and many a painted Indian in his clout swung from the oak tree branches at his order. The forays ended while he kept the border. Then, when the march was quiet, he became a rancher there, and wed and gat a child. A little girl, Manuela was her name. Then, as the darling of that frontier wild, he moved and ruled and glittered and was grim among the gaucho troops who worshipped him. There was a little child, an old man now, who saw him pass once in those Indian days, lean, quick, and cruel, with a panther brow, and wondering eyes that glittered to a blaze, eyes of a madman, yet you knew him then, the one man there, a natural king of men. And cantering with him rode the frontier band, whooping and swearing as they plied the quirt, the 1,000 rake hells of the South Command, with tossing bit cups bright and flying dirt, and Rosas far in front, his long red cloak streaming like flame before the thunderstroke. There were two parties in that distant state, the whites and reds, who for long years had filled the lives of all the country with their hate, the graves of all their churchyards with their killed. There was no white or red with hands not brewed, or smutched in blood in that old party feud. This feud made havoc in the land, yet still stopped at the ranges where Lord Rosas rode. There the wild Indians were enough to kill. Christians were friends, men held the common code, death to the Indians, but within the pale, red against white made murder an old tale. And in the city where the Senate sat, so violent this bloody quarrel was, that men stole to their business like the cat, by silent streets where pavements sprouted grass, and at the corners crouched with stealthy eyes, peered and drew back, or flashed upon their prize. This state of daily murder, nightly plot, killing and burning of the white and red, lasted 3 years, till in the land was not one home of man without some victim dead. Then, in the guilty Senate, someone sane cried, "Whites and reds, let us have peace again. This quarrel makes us beasts in the world's eyes, anarchs and worse. Oh, let this murder end, before God smites us down to make us wise. Let us forget our pride and condescend. Forget the past, and let some leader make order among us for the great God's sake." Then someone said, "What leader, what man here could both sides trust? All here are red or white. This bloodshed will go on another year, or 10 more years, until we reds requite some of our wrongs, until the whites restore their bloodied spoils. Then peace comes, not before." Then there was tumult, but the first took heart, and spoke again. We are all sick with blood. Let be old sins and spoilings. Let us start another page. Have done with flinging mud. Bury the wicked past. Let both sides strive, since both sides care to save this land alive. Then an old white began. We whites have striven against injustice, not for lust of gain. You reds no less. Now in the name of heaven, let not our fellow sufferer plead in vain. Life makes us neither red nor white, but men, self-bound in hell. Let wisdom free us then? Then the first speaker answered, It is clear, since this great city is so racked with feud, and we so stained with blood, that no one here can bring back quiet to the multitude. All here have taken part. Peace cannot come but by pure hands into this devildom. What I propose is that we straightway call young General Rosas and the South Command, men of no clique, but trusted soldiers all, here to make peace, not so this groaning land may, with the help of one whom all can trust, finish with feud and rise up from the dust. There was much talking, but since all were tired of murder in the streets, and no way shewed, save this, to bring the quiet long desired, it was decreed, and so a horseman rode, to summon Rosas north. It was not long ere Rosas came, with troops 1,000 strong. Then Rosas wrote to tell them, I have come, I and my men, obeying your request. I shall remain until the morning drum, then I go back, unless your house invest me with the absolute command to deal as I think fit to save the commonweal. Much as they longed for peace, this bid for power startled the house. They cavilled, they demurred. At dawn Lord Rosas wrote, In 1 more hour I return south, so send me instant word. It makes him king, they thought, yet in their lust for party vengeance all agreed they must. So, with both parties hoping for the lives of all their foes, through Rosas there was calm, and reds and whites both went to whet their knives, licking their lips for blood. Without a qualm, the Senate voted, let it be agreed, that Rosas come, and so it was decreed. So Rosas entered in and took command, and ruled the city to a Roman peace. For 3 long days the cutthroats in his band killed at his nod, and when he bade them cease, the town was tame, for those who could not flee were killed or crushed. I rule henceforth, said he. So Rosas came to power, soon his hold gripped the whole land as though it were a horse. Church, money, law, all yielded. He controlled that land's wild passions with his wilder force, and through their tears men heard from time to time his slaves that worship of his clever crime. And if the city, terrified to all, loathed him as slaves their masters, he was still the gaucho's darling captain. He could draw their hearts at pleasure with his horseman's skill. None ever rode like Rosas, none but he could speak their slang or knew their mystery. So that, in all his bloodiest days, a crowd of gauchos hung about his palace gate. And when he went or came, they shouted loud, Long life to Captain Rosas. They would wait for hours to catch his nod. Their patient rags were brighter to his soul than flowers or flags. And with this gaucho power he ruled his slaves by death alone. Within his audience halls, stretched end to end on Indian lances' staves, were long red streamers propped against the walls, crowned by these words, Death to the whites, but he dealt death to reds and whites impartially. Death was his god, his sword, his creed of power. Death was his pleasure, for he took delight to make his wife and daughter shrink and cower by tales of murder wreaked on red or white. And while these women trembled and turned pale, he shrieked with laughter at the witty tale. Those 2 alone could counter Rosas's will. His wife and daughter, they could bend his mind to mercy sometimes from a purpose ill. So when his heart some bloody deed designed, with merry cunning he would order one to jail those women till the deed was done. He had one jest, which was to bid to feast someone most staid, some bishop without speck, some city lord, some widow soothing priest, and then to drop red fire ants down his neck. Then, as his victim flinched and tried to hide his pains, Lord Rosas laughed until he cried. He held no counsel, but a gaucho fool, dressed like a British general, played the clown about the palace, and was used to rule, vice-regent for him when he left the town. No other colleague had he, but at hand he kept some 12, his chosen murder band, These 12 were picked young nobles, choicely bred, sworn in a gang, the thugs or gallows birds, a club of death, of which he was the head, that saved the state great cost in lawyers' words. Writs, prosecutions, bails, defenses, pleas, were overruled by judges such as these. For if he wished the person killed, he bade the victim and the chosen murderer dine in palace with him while the minstrels played, and he was host and joked and passed the wine, and at the midnight he would see them start, like friends for home, and all the time the cart stood waiting for the corpse at the street end. And then the murderer, warming to his man, in the dark alleys chill, would say, "My friend, I love this talk," and then would jerk a span of knife into his throat and leave him dead, then tell the dead cart gang and go to bed. Thus Rosas ruled, yet still he feared the church that outlasts men. So on a day he cried, "Martin, our patron saint, shall quit his perch. No dirty foreign saint shall be our guide. Priests of those churches which have Martin's head over their altars shall put mine instead." This the priests did, with many a pious phrase about obedience. When the deed was done, his haters gave up hope. They could not raise any rebellion against such an one. He was like God, a prying God, who saw, even in their souls, the breakers of his law. The terror of his rule hung like a ghost, thirsty for blood, about men's haunted minds. Those who dared whisper what they felt were lost. He ground their fortunes as the miller grinds. And in their hate men heard the gaucho sing, "God-given Rosas is indeed a king." There was a soldier in the city there, Colonel O'Gorman, with an only child, a girl, Camilla, worshipped everywhere, for Mary's sweet young beauty dear and wild. So dear and merry she was like the sun, shining and bringing life to everyone. And in the bishop's house there lived a priest, the chaplain Lawrence, who was sick with shame, at all his churches sitting at the feast, with bloody-handed men who went and came, unchecked, unbraved, condoned. He longed to break with such a church for his religion's sake, but being bent by training to obey, and having hope in an appointed task, he held his tongue and wrought and went his way, and hid his weary heart behind a mask, though it was hard. A city chaplain he was widely known throughout the bishop's see, and being fond of music, it so fell that he and that Camilla sometimes met in choirs and singing places. Ah, too well, for those two souls their red and white was set, for love went winging through their hearts, and then what else could matter in this world of men? They became lovers, but by secret ways, with single words, with looks, in public rooms, among a world of spies in a great blaze. They hid this splendid secret of their dooms. Often a week of longing had to end without one word or look from friend to friend. So months of passionate trouble passed them by, making them happy with intensest pain that brought them down all heaven from the sky, and by sharp travail made them born again. Could they but speak, their passionate souls made blind, trod the high stars in the eternal mine. Till, in the spring, Camilla's father planned to take Camilla to the country. There, so he informed her, he would plight her hand to young Lord Charles, his neighbor's son and heir. For it is time, my dear, that you should wed one like Don Charles, a friend and lord, he said. Yet, seeing white dismay upon her face, he said, "Be calm, the wedding cannot be for some weeks more. You have a little grace, but still, tomorrow you must start with me, for you must meet Lord Charles, and come to know your luck, dear child, that you should marry so." All through that day she entertained the guests, all through the evening as her father's slave, she sang and played. But when men sought their rests, even as the thin ghost treads the church's nave, she crept out of the house to tell her man, Lawrence, her loved one, of her father's plan. She reached the bishop's house in the dead night. Far off the dogs barked, then a noise of bells chimed, and the abbey choir shewed a light, where sleepy monk to monk the office tells. Lorenzo's lamp still burned. He paced his room. His shadow like a great bat flitted gloom. There she stood crouched. Two drunken friends went by, singing, "I feel inclined." She drew her breath. All the bright stars were merry in the sky. She called to Lawrence then, as white as death. She yearned and prayed. His feet upon the stair creaked. A bolt clocked and then her man was there. She told her tale, a bitter tale to both. Then Lawrence said, since it has come to this must decide me, and my priestly oath must now be broken. I have done amiss, loving you thus in secret. Now our sin must front the world. A new time must begin. I have long known that such a break would come. I cannot longer serve this church of ours, that sees red crime committed and is dumb, and strews an atheist's path with holy flowers. We two will fly to start another life, far from this wicked town as man and wife. And if the life be hard, it still will be a life together, and our own, and all that life can offer me is you with me. If you are with me, let what may befall. I too say that, Camilla said. We're two, love to the depths, what evil can men do? They looked a long look in each other's eyes, then hand in hand they put aside the past, father and priestly vows, for love is wise. Love plays for life, love stakes upon the cast. Love is both blind and brave, love only knows beauty in the night, a little flame that blows. When the great gates were opened and the carts set out upon the road, those two were there, bound for the west but quiet in their hearts. The beauty on them made the carters stare. There in the west they taught a little school, and she was glad, poor soul, and he, poor fool. This flight, being known, amused the town a while. Camilla's father raged and begged that both might be arraigned, she for unfilial guile, he for the breaking of his priestly oath. The bishop sighed, Lord Rosas laughed, and soon the interest died, it did not live a moon. But in a neighboring state some men there were, exiled by Rosas, or his refugees, who, safe but starving, lived and plotted there, losing no chance of working him disease. These heard the tale, and in their hate they cried, here is a weapon that shall bait his pride. So, in a journal printed at their cost, they wrote how public morals had decayed since Rosas came, how the land's soul was lost. Witness this priest who has seduced a maid, child of a noble, yet is not pursued, punished nor chid by lord or multitude. This, so they wrote, is only due to him, whose bloody rule defiles the suffering land. By his example is our honor dim. Church, made in virtue, nothing can withstand his power for evil. By this single crime, the world will know us rotting in our slime. This, being read, was quoted far and wide, in many lands, with many details more, of this rebelling chaplain and his bride. Lord Rosas's shame, the country's running sore, till, having walked the world, the story came back to Lord Rosas like a ravening flame. He, who had laughed to hear it, foamed with rage to see it counted as his own disgrace. But having read it through, he turned the page, sighed as though sad, and with a smiling face, called on the bishop with a gift of gold, for orphan babes, the lamblings of your fold. And as his way was when he chose, his talk was sweet and gentle, and the bishop shewed his English lilies flowering in the walk, which Rosas praised. The bishop overflowed with holy joy when Rosas deigned to say, "Oh, that our souls might be as white as they." Then, after vespers, when his coach was called, Lord Rosas said, "About this erring priest, your chaplain Lawrence, you are doubtless galled, nay, deeply pained, but men will soon have ceased to mock about it, for itself let be. But they are both so young, it touches me. You like the lad? All like him. And the girl? All loved Camilla. Could not two old friends help two young souls whose hearts are in a whirl? Their future lives may make complete amends for any error now, if you and I help them in this their trouble. Shall we try?" The bishop said that he was deeply touched to hear such Christian words, that he would strive to reach these children whom mistakes had smutched, to bring them peace and save their souls alive. "I too will strive," said Rosas. "Let us learn first where they are and urge them to return. Now that their first hour's madness must be over, they must a little crave for what was life before their fall, and hunger to recover comrade or friend, even as man and wife. Who were your chaplain's friends before the fall?" "A priest," the bishop said, "from Donegal." "The priest Conquest was Lorenzo's friend. He may have heard where they have pitched their tent. He lodges in the parish. Shall I send?" "No, I will write," said Rosas. So he went home to his palace, and in little space Conquest was before him face to face. And what with wine and flattery and deceit, he turned Concannon's head and made him tell the name of those young runaways' retreat, where they taught school beneath the mission bell. Lord Rosas said, when they return to town, we too will back them till they live it down. So thinking that the pair were now forgiven, but for some penance and a reprimand, Concannon left him, giving thanks to heaven, that mercy's spirit governed in the land. They will return, he said, and wed, and make amends for all this passion of mistake. But when he left, Lord Rosas called his guard to jail his daughter. Then, when she was fast, he sent a troop of lancers riding hard to seize those lovers. Ere the night was past, those two poor souls on whom the world had risen were chained like thieves and carted to a prison. But there their guardian, seeing their estate, two gently nurtured souls of no proved crime, knocked off their irons and let women wait on poor Camilla who was near her time. He lent her music, and with fruit and flowers and pleasant talk amused some bitter hours. But in the midnight as he slept, there came a man from Rosas with a sealed command, which ran, take out those lovers without shame before the dawn, and shoot them out of hand. This is your warrant, Rosas. This he read, shocked to the heart, but tumbling from his bed, he called his men to change the courier's horse. Then risking place and life, he wrote to say, I have your lordship's order, but perforce wait confirmation ere I can obey. These two are boy and girl. You cannot mean to kill these two, whatever they have been. He sent this letter to his lord, and then took horse himself, because he hoped to plead with Rosas's daughter, for full many men had wrought that gentle soul to intercede for them in trouble, but he rode in vain. She was imprisoned, and he lost his pain. But writing down his news, he bribed her guard to carry it to her. They took the bribe, then tore his note and flung it in the yard under his eyes, and mocked him with a jibe. No messages will go to her, they said, until your friend, the dirty wight, is dead. When this had failed, he bribed a man to bear a letter to Lord Rosas in his room, pleading Camilla's state. To his despair, the answer came, baptize the woman's womb. Let her drink holy water and then die. Shoot them at dawn or hang for mutiny. One of the Strangler's gang, who once had known Camilla's father, brought this final word, adding, be wise, let sleeping dogs alone. Do as he bids, for it would be absurd to disobey. It could not save the two, even for a day, and he would murder you. So, giving up all hope, he took his horse. But as he rode, another scheme seemed fair. Even now, he said, things need not take their course. Her father may appeal, but coming there, he found her father gone 2 days before. To France, they told him, to return no more. He turned away, but then one other chance remained to beg the bishop to appeal. But some great suit of church inheritance had taken him from town. The wedded steel wanted its blood, so they must die, he cried. And as he rode, he felt death run beside. So, in the dawn, the drummers beat the call, and those poor children, wakened to be killed, were taken out and placed against a wall, facing the soldiers. Then the bell was stilled that had been tolling, and a minute's space was given for their farewells and last embrace. And Lawrence said, Camilla, we shall be in death together. In some other life, if not in this, dear, you will be with me. O my sweet soul, O my beloved wife, you come to this through me. O my sweet friend, my love has brought you to this shameful end. Not shameful, said Camilla. All I did, I have done proudly, as I have begun, so let me end. What human laws forbid, by love's intenser canon we have done. Let love's intenser purpose heal the smart, at having done with this poor timorous heart. I would have loved this little child in me, to suck my breast and clap its little hands, and rest its little body on my knee, and be like you. But now the running sands come to an end, and we must die, my own. So be it, we have loved unto the bone. Then hand in hand they faced the firing squad, who shot them dead into their waiting graves. Love for each other was all the wealth they had. Love that atones, the steady star that saves. Love that, when shattering bullets broke them blind, lit them a path and linked them mind to mind. When the dog's pity of their death was told, Lord Rosas straight proclaimed, I have upheld this country's morals, as I shall uphold. There they lie dead, those wicked who rebelled. I have made pure the country's spotted fame. The country read the story and was tame. But man by man they crept out of the land, day after day, till there were thousands fled, who in their exile swore them to a ban, not to return save over Rosas dead, though they lodged earthen like the naked worm. This tale of those poor lovers kept them firm. Thousands they were, and daily they increased, with arms and faith, until their multitude fell on Lord Rosas as the supping east falls on the barrens where the spirits brood. They came resolved to kill him or to die. Remember those poor lovers, was their cry. When Rosas heard their clamor, he prepared his gaucho lancers. From a rolling hill outside the city, all the plain lies bared. Cornfields and waters turning many a mill, cities and woodlands in a distance dim. There Rosas watched his gauchos fight for him. But from the sworn attackers came a shout, remember those poor lovers, and their charge scattered the gaucho lancers in a rout, and chased their remnants to the river marge. Then Rosas turned his horse and rode alone to some mean dockyard where he was not known. There, casting loose his horse, he bought a coat fit for a sailor, and in this new dress shipped as a seaman in a cargo boat. Then leaving port for England, as I guess, there on her deck that night he took his stand, and looked his last upon his native land. He died in England many a year ago. His daughter, too, both lie in English soil. They say that great moon daisies love to grow over Camilla, and with loving toil, soldiers who drill their train the rose tree boughs over the daisies on their narrow house. A white rose on Camilla, and a red over Don Lawrence, and the branches meet, mingling their many blossoms overhead, drawing the bees, and when the sun is sweet, in April there the little children lay gifts for the pretty lovers on the clay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Snowflake Song by Hilda Conkling. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Snowflakes come in fleets, like ships over the sea. The moon shines down on the crusty snow. The stars make the sky sparkle like goldfish in a glassy bowl. Bluebirds are gone now, but they left their song behind them. The moon seems to say, it is time for summer when the birds come back to pick up their lonesome songs. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Soldiers by Herbert Edward Palmer. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. As the soldiers march along, all the air is filled with song. As the soldiers charge with cheers, all the air is drenched with tears. And when they take their ease at night, the cypress trees are clothed in white. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Sonnet of the Moon by Charles Best. Read for LibriVox.org by JakeW. Look how the pale queen of the silent night doth cause the ocean to attend upon her, and he, as long as she is in his sight, with her full tide is ready her to honour. But when the silver waggon of the moon is mounted up so high he cannot follow, the sea calls home his crystal waves to moan, and with low ebb doth manifest his sorrow. So you, that are the sovereign of my heart, have all my joys attending on your will. My joy is low ebbing when you do depart. When you return, their tide my heart doth fill. So as you come, and as you do depart, joys ebb and flow within my tender heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet on hearing the Dies Irae sung in the Sistine Chapel by Oscar Wilde. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Nay, Lord, not thus. White lilies in the spring, sad olive groves, or silver-breasted dove, teach me more clearly of thy life and love than terrors of red flame and thundering. The hillside vines dear memories of thee bring. A bird at evening flying to its nest tells me of one who had no place of rest. I think it is of thee the sparrows sing. Come rather on some autumn afternoon, when red and brown are burnished on the leaves, and the fields echo to the gleaner's song. Come when the splendid fullness of the moon looks down upon the rows of golden sheaves, and reap thy harvest. We have waited long.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Spirit of Poetry by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. There is a quiet spirit in these woods that dwells where'er the gentle south wind blows, where underneath the white thorn in the glade the wild flowers bloom, or kissing the soft air, the leaves above their sunny palms outspread. With what a tender and impassioned voice it fills the nice and delicate ear of thought, when the fast ushering star of morning comes o'er riding the gray hills with golden scarf, or when the cowled and dusky-sandaled eve in mourning weeds from out the western gate departs with silent pace. That spirit moves in the green valley, where the silver brook from its full laver pours the white cascade, and babbling low amid the tangled woods, slips down through moss-grown stones with endless laughter. And frequent on the everlasting hills its feet go forth, when it doth wrap itself in all the dark embroidery of the storm, and shouts the stern, strong wind. And here, amid the silent majesty of these deep woods, its presence shall uplift thy thoughts from earth, as to the sunshine and the pure, bright air their tops the green trees lift. Hence gifted bards have ever loved the calm and quiet shades. For them there was an eloquent voice in all the sylvan pomp of woods, the golden sun, the flowers, the leaves, the river on its way, blue skies and silver clouds and gentle winds, the swelling upland, where the sidelong sun aslant the wooded slope at evening goes, groves through whose broken roof the sky looks in, mountain and shattered cliff and sunny vale, the distant lake, fountains, and mighty trees, and many a lazy syllable repeating their old poetic legends to the wind. And this is the sweet spirit that doth fill the world. And in these wayward days of youth, my busy fancy oft embodies it, as a bright image of the light and beauty that dwell in nature, of the heavenly forms we worship in our dreams, and the soft hues that stain the wild bird's wing and flush the clouds when the sun sets. Within her tender eye the heaven of April with its changing light, and when it wears the blue of May, is hung. And on her lip the rich red rose. Her hair is like the summer tresses of the trees when twilight makes them brown, and on her cheek blushes the richness of an autumn sky with ever-shifting beauty. Then her breath, it is so like the gentle air of spring, as from the morning's dewy flowers it comes full of their fragrance, that it is a joy to have it round us. And her silver voice is the rich music of a summer bird, heard in the still night with its passionate cadence. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Tavern by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. Tavern. I'll keep a little tavern below the high hill's crest, wherein our grey-eyed people may sit them down and rest. There shall be plates aplenty, and mugs to melt the chill of all the grey-eyed people who happen up the hill. Their sound will sleep the traveller, and dream his journey's end, but I will rouse at midnight the falling fire to tend. Aye, 'tis a curious fancy, but all the good I know was taught me out of two grey eyes a long time ago. End of recording. This recording is in the public domain.
To Father Time by Wilhelmina Stitch. Read for LibriVox.org by Lyra Scout. Whene'er you care to turn my hair from brown to gray or white, whene'er you line this face of mine with wrinkles left and right, I shall not mind nor call unkind these changes that you bring, nor shall I pray for you to stay your swift, relentless sting. But Father Time, please read this rhyme and grant me this request. Take not from me the power to see a joke and merry jest. Let me not tire of my desire to try adventures new, nor e'er destroy my deep keen joy in flowers of vivid hue. Though eyes grow dim and stiff each limb, please leave untouched my heart. So I will heed another's need and act a friendly part. Pile on your years, give cause for tears, but keep my courage strong. Then come what may, I'll ease the day with laughter and with song. Do what you will, you cannot kill my dreams forever fair, for they are mine, old Father Time. In them you have no share. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Trossachs by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. There's not a nook within this solemn pass, but where an apt confessional for one taught by his summer spent, his autumn gone, that life is but a tale of morning grass, withered at eve. From scenes of art which chase that thought away, turn, and with watchful eyes feed it mid nature's old felicities, rocks, rivers, and smooth lakes more clear than glass untouched, unbreathed upon. Thrice happy quest, if from a golden perch of aspen spray, October's workmanship to rival May, this pensive warbler of the ruddy breast, that moral sweeten by heaven-taught lay lulling the year, with all its cares, to rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Visions in Smoke by Rufus W. Landon. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. The quivering smoke wreaths of my cigarette curl slowly upward in the silent room, ensnaring straying sunbeams in a net, ethereal, woven on a magic loom. Aloft there hovers on the atmosphere a rippling haze through which the sunlight gleams, and from its iridescent folds appear fantastic images that fade like dreams. A blue expanse of ocean I behold, whose rolling billows seem to meet the sky, and far below vast stores of gems and gold within their coral caves half buried lie. Their luster falls upon the rotting hulls of ancient vessels sunk in days of yore, while whitened bones and ghastly grinning skulls a silent vigil keep evermore. The scene now changes. From the ocean bed the waters disappear, and in their place a stately marble palace rears its head, a relic of a long-forgotten race. Out of the buried centuries it shines, a glamour of the past in every part. Beauty and grace adorn its phantom lines, to form a masterpiece of ancient art. Its gleaming marble walls and lofty towers now fade and merge into the woodland green, with vine-clad trees and banks of gorgeous flowers that deck the grassy space in between. Beneath the spreading shelter of the trees, the woodland sprints gather one by one, their filmy garments waving in the breeze, their white forms flashing in the golden sun. From far and near they come, a merry band, with flowing tresses and with wings outspread, and dance a mystic measure hand in hand, while dazzling sunbeams fall from overhead. As o'er the sod in ecstasy they glide, like white-capped ocean waves they rise and fall, floating among the flowers in circles wide, soaring aloft above the tree-tops tall. Then, as they sink to earth, a cloud of gray enfolds the forest in a somber cloak. The scene grows dim and slowly fades away into the air on the trailing wisps of smoke. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Winter by John Clare. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Old January, clad in crispy rime, comes limping on, and often makes a stand. The hasty snowstorm ne'er disturbs his time. He mends no pace, but beats his dithering hand. And February, like a timid maid, smiling and sorrowing, follows in his train. Huddled in cloak of miry roads afraid, she hastens on to meet her home again. Then March, the prophetess, by storms inspired, gazes in rapture on the troubled sky. And now in headlong fury madly fired, she bids the hailstorm boil and hurry by. Yet 'neath the blackest cloud a sunbeam flings its cheering promise of returning springs. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The World's Way by Thomas Bailey Aldrich. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. At Haroun's court it chanced upon a time an Arab poet made this pleasant rhyme. The new moon is a horseshoe wrought of God, wherein the Sultan's stallion shall be shod. On hearing this the Sultan smiled, and gave the man a gold piece. Sing again, O slave! Above his lute the happy singer bent, and turned another gracious compliment. And as before the smiling Sultan gave the man a sekka. Sing again, O slave! Again the verse came, fluent as a rill that wanders silver-footed down a hill. The Sultan, listening, nodded as before, still gave the gold and still demanded more. The nimble fancy that had climbed so high grew weary with its climbing by and by. Strange discords rose, the sense went quite amiss, the singer's rhymes refused to meet and kiss. Invention flagged, the lute had got unstrung, and twice he sang the song already sung. The Sultan, furious, called a mute and said, O Musta, straightway whip me off his head. Poets! Not in Arabia alone you get beheaded when your skill is gone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.